So this is all about finding the average. But first, I want you to ask yourself, what is average? What do you think that means? I want you to keep that definition in mind while we work on these problems. So to find average, we have a formula, and that I have listed right here. It is the sum of the numbers divided by the number of things that you're averaging. So we don't have this formula in your textbook, so I would recommend that you write this down in your notes. So if you need to pause the video to do so, I would do that now. Now that we have the formula, let's talk a little bit about what it means. So first here it says the sum, and we need to think about what that special terminology sum means. That means the answer to an addition problem. So that means we're going to add all of our numbers. This bottom line tells you the number of things you're averaging. So that would be, in this example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We are averaging 4 different numbers. So let's just do this as an example. So what we would want to do is we would want to first step by adding all of our numbers. So 3 plus 6 plus 8 plus 4. And when we do that, we get 21. Next, we need to divide that number by the number of things we have. And we already did that together. So we know that we have 4 things. So we need to do 21 divided by 4. When we do this, you can either do the division and use our division algorithm, or you can skip a step and just use the calculator for this easy example. And you find that our average is 5.25. So let's do one more example of this. So we're going to find the average of 7.51, 4.3, and 6.52. So let's do this example together. Our first step is to add all of these numbers together. So this is a good review of how we add decimals. So remember, first thing we need to do is we need to line up all of our decimals that we are adding. So we have 7.51. We have 4. We're going to match up the decimal point. And 3/10. Make this a little neater for you. And lastly, we have 6 and 52/100ths. So now we see we need to annex a 0 as well behind our 4.3. Now we are ready to add our numbers. So first we're going to start on the right. 1 plus 0 plus 2 is 3. 5 plus 5 plus 3 is 13. 7 plus 1 is 8. Plus 4 is 12. Plus 6 is 18. So the sum of our numbers we know now is 18.33. Next thing you want to ask is how many numbers do we have? So we're going to count together. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 numbers. So we're going to take our sum, 18.33, and we're going to divide that by 3. And again, we can just practice the long division quickly with you. So 18.33 divided by 3. First step we're going to do is we're going to move up our decimal so we don't forget about it. And because our divisor, 3, is a whole number, we don't need to worry about moving the decimal at all. So we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 3 go into 18? goes in 6 times. 6 times 3 is 18. 18 minus 18 is 0. We bring down the next number. Ask ourselves, how many times does 3 go into 3? Goes in 1 time. 3 minus 3 is 0. We bring down the next number. Ask ourselves, how many times does 3 go into 3? 1 time. 3 times 3 is 3. 3 minus 3 is 0. And because we have no more numbers in our dividend and 0 we have down here, we are at our final answer. So the average of these 3 numbers is 6 and 11/11. So now it's your turn to try these. So pause the video and find the average of these numbers. All right, now let's check our work. So let's look at these numbers. Our first step is to find the sum or add them. So when we do this, we'll make sure we line up the decimals for addition. So 2.31, 5.2, 3, and 63/100ths, and 6, and 94/100ths. So once we have these, we're going to make sure we annex a 0 after 5.2, and now we're ready to add. So we have 1 plus 3 plus 4 is 8. 3 plus 2 plus 6 plus 9 is 20. So we're going to carry that 2. And now we have 6 and 3, 5, 2. We carried that 2. So for that, we have 18. And now with addition, we lined up our decimals, and it lines up in our answer too. So now we found the sum. Next thing we want to do is divide that sum by the number of things we're averaging. So to figure that out, we count 1, 2, 3, 4. We're averaging 4 numbers. So we're going to take that 18 and 8/100ths and divide it by 4. We see right now that our divisor 4 is a whole number, so don't need to worry about moving the decimal. This decimal is already in the right spot, so we're just going to bring it straight up right away so we don't forget about it. Now we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 18 without going over? 4. 4 times 4 is 16. When we subtract that, 18 minus 16 gives us 2. We're going to bring down the next 0 and ask ourselves that question again. How many times does 4 go into 20 without going over? It goes in 5 times. So 5 times 4 is 20. We subtract those, we get 0. But notice we do still have one more number in our dividend. So we're going to bring that down, 8. Ask ourselves, how many times does 4 go into 8 without going over? 2. So then 2 times 4 is 8. We subtract, we get 0. Now we check. We have 0 here, and there are no more numbers to bring down in our dividend right here. So that means we're done. Double check that our decimal point is in the right spot, and it is. We brought it straight up. So now we know that is our answer, and the average of those 4 numbers is 4 and 52/100ths. And that is the end of our averaging review.